Hi peeps, welcome back. I'm Zen and this is the I don't know what number in the Figma series, but it is the first video where we start to create something very close to a real life website, which is this one here, the Into the Wild. And so in this video we are going to be creating the base page before we move on in the other videos to actually create this entire page. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so before we start building the base page, let's just have a quick look at what we're actually going to create. Because as you know, the base page only contains the elements which appear on every single page. And on this website, it's quite small. We have the logo, if for want of a better word, here in the top right hand corner with the navigation bar showing on its left hand side. And then at the bottom of the page, we have the bottom navigation, the footer, which also has this semi-transparent background, although you can't see it because it's the same color as the background. And that's all we really are going to be creating today, although we are going to be talking quite a bit, or at least I'm going to be doing the talking, explaining why we're doing what we're doing and the decisions that we have to make. So as always, we need to actually have the Figma web page up and running. This is actually the app which is on your pen drive. But we're going to be using the website for this. So here we are in the Figma website. As you can see, I'm signed in using my Seats user, and I've already deleted the looking around one that we created some time ago. And the way you do that is all you have to do is to right click on that project on the left hand side and select delete. Obviously, I'm not going to do that because I want to keep this digital portfolio going, at least for the moment. And so what I need to do is to create a new project from the top window here, which is done when you're actually on your user. It's a new project, and we're going to call it Into the Wild. Once we've done that, obviously we need to create a new file. And within that new file, we need to create the new frame. Choosing the width of our web page is really important. Even if we're building a responsive web page or website like we're going to do with Into the Wild, the width that we choose is still important because this is setting the gold standard. We're saying that if we're designing from this width first, this is going to be the best that this web page will ever look. And we've still got to make sure that it fits within the profile or the screen resolutions that our potential customers are going to be using. It often also defines, if we're going to start with the desktop way, which is what we're going to do, the biggest that our website will be. And then as we progress making this website, we'll start to work out ways to make it responsive and react to the different widths of the browser so that it still looks presentable, all the way down to the mobile version. The mobile version is also really important because it is in fact, for most websites, the format that most websites are now viewed at. And so making sure that looks nice is also really important. And so you can make the decision, do you want to go from big to small or from small to big? So from desktop to mobile design or from mobile to desktop. I believe it's easier when people are starting out to go from desktop down to mobile, simply because you get more freedom of where you want to place things and stuff like that. And you will find that as you're going down into the tablet and then into the mobile, they can get a bit difficult to rearrange things. This is why the professionals tend to want to start with the mobile version, because then when they are expanding out, it's easier to add real estate to a web page than to take it away. But I still think that only if you're an experienced web designer, that is the way to go. For starters, we should, for people who are starting out on this, we should start with the desktop version. And we've talked before about how wide it should be. We're going to go for the Surface Book width here of 1500. And in actual fact, even though we're starting off with a 1500 width, it's not really going to be a 1500 width website, as you'll see in a little while. Now we've chosen that width, we need to set the X and Y coordinates to 0. That's really more to do with me than anything else, if we're honest. Okay, So let's remind ourselves of what we're creating. We are going to be creating this sort of top navigation style section. Okay, and we can notice that it is in a semi-transparent background, or it has a semi-transparent background, which is also modeled or mirrored in the footer. And those are really the only two things which are in the base page, as well as this olive green background. One of the things we should do really is to set up the olive green background. And that is done obviously clicking onto the surface book itself and going to the fill color. Obviously you would normally spend a lot of time experimenting with the fill color, but I've obviously already got that set up, and I'm using the color 5B833A. Okay, and it's this sort of, I call it olive green, camo green sort of color, and that's the one that we want. The next thing is to put in the semi-transparent rectangle that we use at the top. Again, it's just a rectangle tool, and so we're going to click and we're going to drag that out. Now along with this, we have to say to ourselves, well, hang on a minute, if we look at the original design, and I'll just bring that back over, we can see that the website has a sort of unofficial padding even at the top here. And again, this page, when it was made several months ago, you know, it was a mock-up. We weren't really thinking about the actual dimensions properly, and that's what we're going to do while we're making these. But we can see we've got some gaps along the top, and definitely a sort of border within the whole site itself. That will be the first of the layout grids that we will be using. We will be using multiple grids on this site. So we're going to go back to Surface Book, and we're going to add the layout grid, and we're going to add one, and we're going to change it from grid to columns. We're going to change the type to left, and to start with we're actually just going to have the single column, the one column, and we're going to set its width at 1350 with an offset of 75, and so that offset from 75 from there means that we're also going to have a 75 pixel offset here, because our page is 1500 in total. So 2 lots of 75 is 150, 150 plus 1350 is 1500. And so with that, we can now actually reduce this to within that area. We're going to keep the white position at 25. I'm going to reduce the height down to 90. In fact, that may even be too big. And also, if you noted in the old one, there were rounded corners, and we're going to give them a radius of 20 pixels. And of course, the next thing to do is to change the background color, or the fill color of the rectangle. And the rectangle fill color is in fact the same as the page color, but with a 50% transparency level to it. Obviously, now we've done that, we cannot see the rectangle. So what we're going to do is just quickly go back to Surface Book, and we're going to change the color to pure white. And notice here it's in my documents color now, the one that we were using. So it's okay to change it back to pure white, because we won't lose the original document color that we had. So pure white, and there we have it. So here is our, we call it our navigation bar, because that's really what it is. It's our navigation bar. And now into that, we've got the text. Now, again, I'll just bring it back over. We can see here that the text is quite unique. It's a very specific style of font. And as usual, we've done this using Google Fonts, or we found the font using Google Fonts and then made sure it was available in Figma. So we're just going to quickly jump over to Google Fonts to find it. So here we are in Google Fonts, and basically what we can do is to start to play about with the categories to get the type of font that we want. And obviously when I was doing this, I had a very specific style of font that I wanted. So I didn't want serif, I didn't want it with feet. I don't think it's classed as handwriting, and it's not a monospace. So we've got sans serif and display, and we should always type in the word that we want, which in this case is into the wild. Now, just needs to be, I think I liked this idea originally, but it didn't quite go out the way I wanted it to. There seems to be quite a few fonts, so I'm going to save myself some time. And here you go. I don't know how you pronounce this. Syncopate, maybe? But this is the actual font that we're using. And it is available in Figma. So we'll go back into here. And so we're going to add the font. I'm going to click and drag over here because this is where it's going to say. And first thing we're going to do is obviously put in into the wild. So into capital T for the, and then enter, and then capital W for wild. So now we need to make the changes to the font. So we're going to change it to pure white. Oops, wrong bit there. We're going to right align it, and then we're going to change the font size. I'm not quite sure which one. Let's start off with 96, way too big. Let's jump it down to 64, still way too big. 36, I'm not doing too well here. Okay, let's just expand this a bit. There we go. Just need it to be a bit bigger. So 36 looks about right, but I think I can probably make it just slightly bigger and move it into about font size 40, and then just by using the, let's get it selected, using the arrow keys, I can start to move it into roughly the right place. So what's nice about this is that we can use its curves to sort of mirror that of the curves that we've done into there. And then all we've got to do is to add the navigation bar links. And again, that's using a text box. I'm just going to put it in rough at the moment. We want the text again to be white. We want it also to be left aligned, and we're going to drop the font size down just for the moment to about 24, and we'll see how that goes. So again, the case does matter, so we're going to start off with a capital H for home, and everything else is lowercase, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and next one we're going to put in the word about. Again, capital A, everything else lowercase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next one is packages, and again capital P. Next one is offers. Is that 5? Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then destinations. And I'm actually going to run out of space here, so just going to open it up a bit more. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the last one is log in, and then there's actually a / which we'll talk about in a moment. Now, obviously, this is going too far across the page. I actually want the navigation bar to be sort of from the left, from the center, and then off to the left. So we need to obviously get this font smaller. Having fun here trying to get selected. Let's drop it from 40 to 24. So I just selected the wrong one there. There we go. Oh, it's at 24, so let's go to 18. And really, I perhaps actually want a bit smaller than that, but I don't want to go much smaller than that, because if we get much smaller than 16, it gets to a point where it gets a little bit more difficult for people to read it. In fact, let's just preview it here. Oh, it's still fairly readable. Okay, so that's not too bad. It's still fairly readable. And it is just after halfway. Okay, I mean halfway mark's going to be about here, I just said. So just a bit over. I think that's doable. Let's just see. What happens if I drop that from down to 14? Is that a big difference? It's definitely more within the placement that I wanted it. And actually I still would say that that's readable. Although I am looking at it on a 24-inch, on a 28-inch screen, which is a bit bigger than most, but that should still be okay. Now, the other thing is that what I actually want is this one to be saying about me, and this one to be login/register. But both the me in about me, I wanted to be the me on the second line, and I wanted the word register to be below the login. We could have spent a long time messing about on the second line, but there is a way around it, and that is, like always, to cheat. So text, click and drag, and this time I'm going to set it to center, but all the other values are correct apart from the color, which we need it to be white. And then we're going to type in about and then enter me. We can't see it because here it is. And then what we're going to do is to zoom in. And then we're going to place it that looks like it's going to be as perfect as it can be. It looks like there is a doubling of this. I'm not going to get it pixel perfect for one reason or another. Let's have a look. See, that is 94 and that's 95. It should look perfect. Okay, I'm going to leave it like that. Okay, for the about me. And then I am going to repeat this in login / destination. You might ask, well, rather than just putting in about me, why not just put in the word me and then match it up so it fits where I want it to be? And the reason for that is that I want it to be correct within the font itself. And that might sound a bit weird, but obviously when we come to do this in the actual website, we're going to be doing these as different elements, unique elements. So, you know, the login / registration is going to be just one paragraph text on its own, with the destinations being another one on its own. And so we've got to try and get the text to look as close to what it will be in the real one. At least that's the excuse I'm given. So again, let's just, you see, like for example in this one, where the I need to stretch this out so it matches. And then we're going to move it over. In fact, doing it in a different colour. You can see how it's not a perfect match, and that's really annoying for me, because it being pixel perfect, it should be spot on. And rather than registration, we're going to do register. I think registration's too big. Okay, so now it's away from there. So that as it is, and now I'm just going to turn that to white. And then when we zoom out, okay, when we go into a preview page, it looks exactly how we want it to. I would argue you can actually see these look a bit bolder, and I probably would make these slightly bolder. Actually add the bold font to these to make it stand out a bit more. Obviously, when we start adding pictures and stuff behind it, it will stand out a bit more as well. So that is the registration page. Sorry, that is the navigation to the base page. And what we're actually going to do now is, like we've done before, is we are going to click and select them all. Now I don't like that being there. Let me just find out what is causing that big. Let's shrink that down. There's no need for that to do that. Okay, so let's click, shift and select them all, and we're going to group them, and then we're gonna, can we rename this? Yeah, so it's easier to identify, and we're going to call it top nav. That just makes it easier for us when we're looking at all the different groups that we're going to be creating. Then what we're going to do is we're basically going to do the very similar thing at the bottom of the page, which will be our footer. And like I said before, we don't need all this space, so but we'll leave it because, you know, there's no real need to delete it, I suppose, at this point. So we'll leave it as it is, and then what we can do is that we can duplicate this. So we can duplicate this by selecting it, Control C for copy on a Windows machine, Control V for paste, and then we can just drag it down. No, we didn't want to do that. Just want to drag it down like that. Actually, let's move this one below that one. And then let's rename this one and call it the footer. And so now what we've got to do is to take out things we don't need. For example, we don't need the into the wild bit. We don't need the login register bit. We don't need the about me bit, and we've just got the text. Now that what we're also going to do is to get rid of that text box as well. And in this bottom one, we're going to do what we could have done at the top in the navigation, and that is do all the elements individually this time. For this, because it's the bottom, we're going to be using a smaller font size. So first we're going to click out our first text box, and we're going to drop the font size down to 12, so even smaller. Again, the fill color is going to go to white, and we're going to center align the text as well. And so again, we're going to do capital T for terms and conditions. So terms and then enter, and capital C for conditions. Oh, and the other thing is just going to hear the terms and conditions is not inside my footer, so I'm going to drag that in there. So now I've got the terms and conditions one. What I'm going to do is, rather than keep creating a new fresh text field where I might have to go through and do all the formatting again and again, I'm just going to select terms and conditions there, Control C and then Control V. And then all I have to do is edit the text, and so the second one is about us, and then I can just move this over here for the moment, and then Control V again, and this time it will be modern slavery, and then enter statement, and then we're going to move that over, and then another V to paste it out. And what's the next one? Will be cookie policy. Make sure I click off that before I do Control V. And this next one is site, enter accessibility. And bring it back on. And this time it's going to be a registered address. Oops, doesn't seem to be changing it. There we go. And then the final one is going to be in caps ATOL and enter. Oops, so on the spell and ABTA data. So now I've got that. What I want to be able to do is then to, as you see here, they're all in the wrong place. So let's drag these all into here, and I notice I can't spell about correctly as well. These all into the footer. Okay, now in the footer we can do a shift click. Don't want the rectangle there. Let's try that again. Shift click, and the first thing we're going to do is to arrange them so they're all vertically centered. Okay, now I can use my keyboard to move them around a bit. What's interesting is that the About Us is the only one which is not on two lines, so I think I might change that. So About, enter Us, so there, and again I'm just going to shift click them and get them all in staying vertical. Well, it doesn't look like that's really happened there. There you go, a line to the top seemed to do what I wanted. And then we want to distribute them horizontally. Now we've done that, we can move it so it's a little bit more centered. And now we've got a choice here as well. Just zoom out a little bit. Do we shrink this? And I'd say that we probably will do. Let's also shrink the height. So at the moment it's a height of 90. Knocking it down to 60 seems to still work okay. If we do that, we can now move the text so it's a little bit more centered in it. And I would also say that the rectangle can be considerably smaller. So at the moment it's 1350. Let's see what it's like at 900. You can see we've got some stuff missed out. So 900 is too small because we've still got things missing just over there. So let's just try 1000. No, well, maybe not as small as I thought it was. So 1200, and then what I want to do is to get that. Okay, so now I've got it selected. I'm just using again the arrow tools just to get it roughly correct. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect, but roughly correct is okay. Just a few more once it's over. There we go. And I'll say it's about right. Now I can zoom out. And if you remember, the other thing I need to do is to go back onto here to change the fill color. Oh, and it's blooming well lost it. Okay, well, not to worry. We know what the color is. It is 5B833A for our document color. And then we can also hide the layout grid, and that is our base page. and it may have taken a bit longer than perhaps we were expecting it to, but it's now done. And from here we can start going on to build the pages bit by bit. So hopefully this has been useful. I appreciate it's taking a bit longer than I hoped, but you know, these things take as long as they do. As always, please like, subscribe and comment, and if you don't like it, then give me a thumbs down, but please tell me why, okay? And if you give me a thumbs up, still tell me how to improve this. This is what I need to know. So that's the end of this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one. This is Zen signing out.